Hello everyone. So yeah, stream is working and today I will be continuing on redesigning the planes from Heroes of Might and Magic 1. And in my spare time I found some references mainly for the things that I want to like to direct the thing a bit further. So I found some photos from I believe Mongolia and some from I have no idea where. But the general idea was to just have like a visual cue on what direction I will be going. I guess something between, let me grab a color. In terms of colors, it will be like a mix between, yeah, basically this four. Because it just looks cool. I really like how light the grass is in this one, but I also really like that like toned down colors, like the earthy tones that are in here. So I guess I will go with something like this, and if there will be any red type of a color, it will have like this hue, because I just I really dig this hue of a color. But yeah, this more likely will be the general tone in which I want to have this type of a guys. So yeah, basically this. And today I kind of feel like doing this like fat dude with like this maze, or however to call it, like with this tree. I just feel he will be the most interesting one. So I will just copy him. I will just image size him to like, I don't know, 4000 pixels in height. So the line art will be relatively nice. And I think I won't really care about using 3D. I wanted to use 3D previously, but now I don't. And I also got some references. This is Ben Pollack, PH deadlift, because this guy is absolutely massive and you can see like the arms and everything. So basically the placement of arms is relatively similar, and this like type of a flex is relatively similar to what happens in here, just slightly rotated. So I will be doing this guy, and I think I will do like 3 variants of him. So I want to like increase the quality of a sketch, and then I will just try to like slightly redesign him without like looking at the original. So it will be a bit more like redesign. So let me just go with this. To make it a bit darker, let me save the file only so I won't lose it. Let's call it Ogre, because this is Ogre. And planes. Ogre. Or something similar to Ogre, I don't know. But this is the general idea for today. I was thinking about using some references, but I don't like really feel they're extremely needed. So I guess I will just improve on the line quality, and I will just like do a nice drawing, hopefully a nice drawing. And this is the plan for today. And as always, if any of you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to ask. If you have any artworks that you would like me to see, so for example, you painted something and you would like me to just, I don't know, talk about it, paint over it or whatever, let me know. I will do so if you will send me a link, preferably on Twitch, because on Twitch I can open links. On YouTube I can't open links. So yeah, this is the idea for today. And for the previous plans, I wanted to draw this guy on a 3D. I basically wanted to paint every single guy on a 3D base, but I kind of felt like, okay, maybe again I'm trying to rely a bit too much on a 3D, and instead of like just going with 3D again, I will just try to draw it. So in the future drawing will be easier. So yeah, the plan has changed, and also recently I rediscovered the brush that I really enjoyed using like back in the days, like a sketch brush and just something like this, but it has a really nice quality of line. Hello Mikołaj. So I will just continue using this one, and because like as I said, I found this brush, I felt sketching is much more pleasant than it was like 1 week ago. So now I feel like I want to continue with it. And yeah, this is pretty much all that I wanted to include in this one. So I will just make the line quality a bit nicer. I will try to render everything nicer. Of course, I will still try to keep everything a bit more stylized, because this is slightly more stylized project, I would say, in a sense. Because like Heroes of Might and Magic 1 is a bit more stylized. But if at some point I will decide that I want to keep the entire thing a bit more realistic, then most likely I will go for something like this, because, well, in the end it has to be like a pleasant experience, and I don't really want to like do something that just don't feel right with me. But I will see how it will go, and maybe the colors or the rendering style will be a bit different, but it's a long way to before I will go into rendering or whatever. So yeah. And also today I might think a bit slower, because for the first time in I don't remember when, I have woken up around like 7 in the morning. Oh, that's absolutely crazy for me, because usually I don't wake up if I don't see double digits on a clock. So at this moment I feel like I'm awake for like 40 hours. I mean, I'm not awake for 40 hours, but it definitely feels like I am awake for 40 hours at this point. So I feel kind of zoned out. But on the other hand, this type of a state, let's name it like this, really helps with drawing, I would say. I kind of wonder if I want to draw this guy first without any clothes and then with clothes. Yeah, this is a good idea. So yeah, body-wise, of course, I don't want him to be like extremely chiseled. He will have like a huge muscles and everything, and like a thicker skin. So for example, a thicker skin will hide some of the striations. So for example, as you can see in here, like the striations or whatever, there won't be really that visible, but I want to include some more texture due to the loose skin and a really hard skin. So the hard skin will be kind of like hanging on this guy, and this is like the general idea. But for the mass and the roundness of muscles, I guess using Ben as a reference is always a good idea, because this dude is absolutely massive. So yeah, and it's kind of fun also because I have been following him for a pretty long time at the moment, because I really enjoy basically looking at buff dudes when they work out. So I remember when I just started like watching him, he was big, but when he got like 10 times bigger than he used to be, it's kind of funny because on his old photos he actually looks small. And also let me search for it for the another reference that I wanted to have in here with a physique that is a bit more similar, that I also have used in the past, of Eddie Hall, for the abdominals, because Eddie in here has more similar abdominals. And also let me show you Ben Pollack back in the days. Pollack. When you could say he was small. So for example, I don't know, this photo. Yeah. If you compare like him from here to here, he used to be small, which is kind of crazy to say that someone like of this build is small. And this actually also is a really nice reference. So let me, I'm sorry for beheading you. So let me just put it in here. And yeah, for a guy like this, for a really like, let's say, huge ogre, I feel giving him a bit fatter and thicker anatomy is just a bit better, because I can imagine, as again, this guy don't really work out like per se, and most likely they enjoy eating a lot, so most likely they will have like fuckload of like fat of them, and most likely they will be a little bit rounder. And also because they are like huge and strong, I can imagine this will be actually really helpful for them, because if you are like a monster, then if you can like outweight someone, you can just like lay down on them, and it's like one of your weapons, so it's like advantage for you. You can basically just destroy someone by like lying on them. So yeah, I think it's a nice thing. For the hair, I want them to be a little bit dirty and messy, definitely really thick, so I don't want the hair to be like, let's say, nice and curly, so there will be no like beautiful curls. But I kind of want them to be like an old rug or like an old towel. So after like touching them, you will feel like all the grease and like sweat and all the other disgusting things like on your hand. Kind of like if you pet like a dog that was not like cleaned properly, that has like a dirty fur. Or maybe kind of like some sort of a dreadlocks, like if you really don't keep them tidy and if you don't clean them. So I can imagine this hair on this guy is to be actually really like rough and really hard. It also could help him to like maintain the temperature in the body, because the hair basically is like a giant insulator, so maybe this actually would serve a purpose in here. So yeah, for the face I want something that is a little bit more primitive, so let me also show you Neanderthal face. I feel something like this will, or even something between this. So this is more like an ape type of a face, but I do really like how it looks like. This one is actually really close to what I was thinking, how this guy could look like. Also a funny thing, when I'm using a tablet, my mouse basically don't work in Photoshop. I don't know what type of a bug it is, but it's a bit annoying. But the other face that I kind of had in mind is something, okay, maybe not like this. Is something a little bit more human-like, so something like this. This will actually give a lot of charm to the character, I believe. But I think I want to keep them a little bit more on a stupid, less charismatic way, so they will be a bit more scary, even though this actually looks really fun. But what I like is the parts of the face, they basically look swollen, so this is definitely a nice thing in my opinion. Like it feels that it would fit this character. But for the eyes, I really dig those type of things to be in here. And also the uneven eyes. I feel this type of asymmetry is really will work really well with this type of a character, and with those like really strong and really visible muscles and bones and everything. I feel this is just a good way to approach it. It's also kind of funny because one of my friends has a really similar smile, not in terms of like the face, but the shape of the smile is relatively similar. I also read once somewhere that if you have like Neanderthal gene in your body, now I might be mixing it because I don't remember correctly, I will need to check this info up. But if you have like the slightest amount of Neanderthal genes, then your hair will be like perfectly straight, so they won't curl. I don't know if it's true, but I remember like reading about it somewhere like in the like not distant past. So yeah. Something like this. And I kind of like the fact that these guys don't have like a mustache. This is definitely a thing that I want to keep in him. And this guy, I kind of feel like a face with a beard, without hair, and without a mustache looks a bit more primitive. I don't know why I have this feeling, but it just kind of looks a bit more primal for me. So yeah, like usually the beard without mustache looks odd. I guess someone could say the same thing about only the mustache as I'm like having right now, but it's just like my personal feeling on this type of a thing. I feel like one eye could be lower, so he will be a bit more tilted. Well, okay. And one of the things that I want to avoid is having like the straight line, so you can see the thing in here was like a straight line. So I need to remember that behind this type of a behind like this hair, there's most likely like a huge ass trap. So yeah, the hair definitely like will like follow the form. It will be a little bit odd for this type of a character to have like a small traps. It won't make a lot of sense for them. So, and for the second teeth, it can be like in here. I even can imagine this guy having a little bit more like huge breasts in a sense, like kind of like this floppy type of a skin hanging around. Because again, this dude is just huge, and yeah, the pecs could like really develop on this fella. And for a bicep, a similar story. It will be just a huge type of a ball with like a shoulder in here. So like the insertions will be like really visible. There's a really cool tendon in the bicep. Let me also show it to you. Bicep anatomy. Not bicep anatomy, arm. Well, okay, this is a bit on the uglier side in terms of like the image, but and it also does not show the tendon that I wanted to show you. So yeah, perfect reference right there. Now most likely I won't find the reference as I intend to. Yeah, but basically there is like a tendon that kind of like wraps around the forearm, and this tendon is like in here, so it kind of like wraps in thing around. It's just really cool. I just enjoy how it looks. And this type of a reference is relatively okay because again, the pose is relatively similar. The anatomy is not really helpful in here that much, but it gives some pointers. So for example, like the tricep or what is happening like under the bicep. So for example, if the bicep is like in here, this one is really weirdly tilted. Something like in here will happen. There are some muscles in here. So yeah, but mostly if you are like this thick, then there will be no striations. I will just more try to like wrap this form around, so you can see like a sheer mass without any like details whatsoever. And the forearm, it will go like behind a bicep because like bicep inserts between, like in the middle of an arm. So yeah, and I do believe this bicep could pop more. And again, the forearms on this guy will be really massive. So for the hand, I will just use my hand to just draw it a bit nicer. Again, this type of a guy I can imagine will have like, definitely a huge set of hands and everything. And the 4 fingers. This is the thing that I have mentioned previously. I do believe 4 fingers kind of suggest this character is a bit limited in terms of like the intelligence. So yeah. And for the nails, yeah, just smaller nails. will like add to the feeling of him not being extremely like bright, I would say. I also feel that if he lives in, I mean, I don't feel it, I kinda like can like make an educated guess. If he lives in a really hostile environment, by hostile I mean somewhere where it's like extremely hot, and he lives in like caves or whatever. Actually, in the game he lives in like a really nice housing, but he does look like a typical like physical type of a guy. I can imagine the nails will actually be pretty short because they will like grind on pretty much everything, on sand, on rocks, on stones, while fighting, eating, or whatever. So I can imagine this to be the case. Also, a tree stump. I kind of want this tree to be like a specific, like a real tree. So for example, it will be like a palm tree or whatever. But I don't think if a palm tree will actually be strong enough to like withstand smashing with it. And also a warp, the best tool in the entire existence. It does save lives. For the hand, what I am missing in here is a bit more mass in here, and there's like a closure in here, so yep, something along those lines. But most likely I will rework the hand many times, because drawing hands is just hard, and yeah, this is pretty much my take on hands. For the forearm in here, similar story. There will be maybe like one muscle visible. There is like this biggest muscle in here that's like, I don't know, it most likely is for the middle finger and the finger next to it, but I kinda believe these like striations will be visible in here because the body usually don't hold too fat on forearms. I mean, I can imagine this is like one of the last places where when the body will decide to like magazine the fat tissue. Usually the belly is first, like the chest area, maybe legs. I don't know if legs are before hands, but I feel like hands should be like one of the last places. And of course the last place is like a forehead or whatever. There is a very popular meme, one lady having a fatty forehead. So yeah, you really need to go above and beyond everything for your organism to decide to put a fat tissue on your forehead. This is something a bit more special. For the veins, I also don't think they will be like really visible, maybe on the hands, or maybe like this bicep vein type of a thing, but just slightly. Because I can imagine, like, again, if the skin is really thick, then it will be much harder for anything to like penetrate it. So it's kind of like if you would put like a rubber balloon on top of something, it will basically like shape as the object that you laid it on. If you would like put a piece of leather on anything, most likely it will just bump slightly, behave something like this. If something would be underneath it. So yeah, it's good to keep in mind those type of things, because one of the things that I don't really like or enjoy while watching different monster designs is when like a monster of this type, for example, is like extremely ripped, kind of like a bodybuilder, like single digit fat tissue, which okay, looks cool, but does not make like tons of sense. I can imagine, again, those type of monsters are not really like counting their calories and everything to be like single digit type of a fat tissue. So yeah, for a tree stump, I can imagine it won't actually have a lot of roots coming out of it, because after like smashing a lot of things, with it, just like even practicing with it. I can imagine the roots will be like the first thing to like fly off, to like wear off the tree stump. So there should not be too many things. Maybe adding some sort of a rope over it. So like maybe it would make a bit of a sense for them to like tie a rope around the tree stump, so it actually will hold better and it won't like break or whatever that can happen to a rope. So it will like kind of squeeze everything together, and it will make it like just stronger. I don't know if this is a case, but it does sound like it could work this way. This is definitely a thing that I would believe works, so I will give it a go. And it does not even need to be like a proper rope. It can be like a piece of fabric or whatever. So yeah. I kind of want it to be like ropey. And also it kind of like changes the silhouette of a tree, which in my opinion is always cool, because now you have something a little bit more interesting, and it just is a cool thing to have on a character, especially since, for example, for this guy I will be giving him like this belt wrap type of a thing. Screen started flickering again. That will be made out of rope. Let me search for it. Belt rope. If there is maybe like a reference on how this could be like tightened around. Is there like a magical method you could do this instead of just like wrapping it around twice? But it looks like it's just like wrapping it around twice does the job really nicely. Something like this looks kind of okay-ish. It's really not that sophisticated, I would say, but yeah, this arm needs to be a bit bigger. And I have no idea why, but again, this small screen starts to like flicker on me. So yeah. Also a really cool thing that I recently like discovered, new window for Ogre. And now I can do arrange to up vertically. So now I can have something like this. This is actually a really cool trick to record like a video of a process for, I forgot to like put it in here to see how the image is progressing. So for example, I can place it like right in here, and now if I will like draw anything in here, it will update on a second screen too. So yeah, I will just place it like in here next to my face. So as you can see, I can work on some like details and everything, and after like a really small delay, it will appear on a normal screen. So a cool little trick I just like recently relearned, because I have been like searching for some. Nah, this reference I don't like. I like this reference. This is what I wanted to have, because yeah, this makes a bit more sense. I mean, this is basically the same belt, I believe, or something really similar, but the mechanism of working of it is much clearer in this example. So yeah, it's actually a really neat way to have a belt, to wear a rope. No, the rope will go like around it. I feel like double rope is a bit more interesting, but will be slightly thick. So yeah. Also, this is a nice explanation for why some units, for example, might require a like certain building to be built. So, for example, you have the ogres, but if you don't want your ogres to like run naked, you need like goblins or whatever, because the goblins, for example, can manufacture some ropes, and this is like the sole purpose of like having goblins to build the ogres. It just makes sense. So you don't get an army of like naked ogres. I don't say they won't be terrifying. I definitely believe like army of naked ogres will be much more terrifying than army of like clothed ogres, because just imagine the sheer terror that you will feel after like an army like this would just run onto you. This will be like proper scary. So yeah. And in here will be some like leftovers of this cloth that he is wearing. For the cloth, I believe it can be like a mix of just like leathers, like leather or whatever. Just, yeah. Nothing too crazy, nothing too spectacular, but something that will add a little bit more character to it. But yeah, for the second screen, I do believe this works nicely. So let me couple it together. The only downside is I don't really like working on a small screen. So most likely, if I were to ever like work this way throughout the entire painting, most likely I would do something like this on a second screen and just like record the second screen, like I mean the third screen, because soon I will be getting a third screen, because like I feel like two are not enough at this moment, because basically I want to be able to see some references constantly without needing to like switch screens, and basically the entire stream is on one screen, because if I just scale it down even a little bit, then pretty much I cannot see how the stream looks like and if everything works. So yeah, it's pretty vital. And also, if I will have like a third screen, I can imagine like watching memes and everything while doing other stuff will be much easier, or just having some guides or whatever when I play games. So yeah. And for the games, recently I started replaying Dark Souls 3 again. I kind of felt like just going into Dark Souls world again for like I don't know which time, but this time I decided to play sorcery, something I have never like pretty much played before. I usually was going for a heavy type of a mauler, like dual wielding type of a beast with just fat rolling and just smashing everything. This time I decided to try sorceries, and it's fun, but the gameplay is so vastly different. Some monsters are extremely easy, some monsters that I were like hardly able to kill in like let's say normal run now are extremely easy, and some monsters that were like extremely easy now are like terrifyingly hard. So for example, like the weirdest thing that I encountered was the Crystal Sage, who was hard for the first time ever, because I was dealing like 0 damage melee when I first approached to him, or the Deacons of the Deep. I had no idea Deacons of the Deep can be like problematic in the slightest. It turns out they can, and I also discovered they have like this special attack type of a thing that I have never like heard, like ever seen before, where when you play for like fight with them for a really long period of time, they basically like make the entire map go black. They just like summon this giant darkness type of a thing that curses your character, which again is the thing that I have seen for the first time, because usually the deacons of the Deep is like just enter, smash them 2 or 3 times, and they are dead because they are like extremely squishy, and it's really easy to kill them, especially if you're like double wielding a huge ass weapon. But again, using sorceries like that are pretty much single target type of a stuff, especially on this like this stage of a game, makes it impossible for me to like use them effectively. So I just had to ember up and just kill kill all of them at the same time. So yeah, definitely it was a funny type of a thing. I wonder how it will go in the end game, like in the literal end game, and how fighting some different bosses will go, because on one hand I deal a really good damage, but on the other hand the damage output is relatively slow. The single target is okay, but the DPS is relatively small. Yeah, and for the leg, again, nothing too sophisticated, just like a bandages or like some sort of a cloth wrapped around the leg or whatever, so he will keep his like feet protected. And I can imagine this type of a guy to have like 3 fingers, 3 foot, 3 toes. I don't even know how to call it. I guess 3 toes. Yeah, let's say 3 fingers on his foot, or whatever. So the middle one can be like the longest, and it will be a bit more bony and squishy, so you can see the weight of a character. Also, if you are like this big, I can imagine you won't have like a proper like arc in a foot. I do believe you will get like a flat foot type of a thing, because like the weight of your body will be like so big that you'll just basically squeeze it pretty a lot. So yeah, here's our monster slowly coming together, and it's going relatively fast. I don't know why this like screen is flashing again. Am I drawing? Oh, okay, I thought I'm drawing with a symmetry. And yeah, again, and if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. I'm more than happy to answer them. And also for other funny things, today in the morning I was in IKEA. I had to like buy some stuff, and this was also the reason why I woke up extremely early, because I had like an appointment with some stuff from IKEA for them to explain to me some things and everything, how to like basically what to buy and whatnot. And after like 10 minutes while talking with the assistant, they had a code 1000, what basically is an evacuation. So there were like an evacuation drill, and yeah, I spent my morning practicing like fire evacuation type of a thing at IKEA. Fun, especially since they do this like most likely, I don't know, once a year or whatever. So lucky me, I managed to like experience this type of a thing when I could just go to sleep, and yeah, it's pretty much all will be. But it was interesting. Definitely added a bit flavor to the day, especially since again I woke up really early as it is for me, so this day, well, now feels extra long at this point. Some cloth in here. Drawing this feet will be a bit harder because of the like position it's in. Usually drawing feet from a side is relatively hard. Drawing feet up front is really weird. Like the shape of it is like really odd. It's usually a thing that I don't really enjoy, especially since it's like really foreshortened. So if I would say the heel is like in here, then the heel needs to be in here. So it gets really short really fast. So for this type of a thing, most likely I should use some references, because again, it's not the easiest setup for it, but we'll just roll with what we got and we will see how it turns out. I can always repaint something and like rework it, so it's not that big of a deal. Also, calves on this guy I can imagine to be like slightly bigger. It should be like here. Let me search for a ref. Is there a nice ref? It's like the anatomy of a feet is one thing, but actually drawing a feet in this weird ass angle is absolutely another thing. Now when just look at it quickly, I don't see. Okay, this should do. Yeah, ask someone to not come in, so they will come in because they have short memory. Yeah, so this will basically do. There's a really nice breakdown of a shape in here. So this is pretty much what I need for this type of a fit, because I want it to be like rotated around. So yeah, let me just remove this guy and just redo this. So we will start from the back. So basically in here there will be a heel. In here I will like connect the entire fit, which makes a lot of sense. Then I will flatten the this green part. Something like this. And this finger will go like this. The feet are weird. I basically will fuse all those three fingers, like I don't even know these toes. Let's name them toes. We'll just fuse them together. Oh, there will be a bone in here, yeah. This is what I also have been missing. So yeah, it just goes like this. And yeah, usually when in doubt, just use some geometry, because it basically solves all the problems that you might encounter. It's like the easiest way to approach pretty much anything in drawing. Just use references. It's like the best shortcut in art. This is like the trick to make everything look better. And yeah. I'm still not entirely convinced on this, but yeah. Well. But I feel it looks like it grabs the ground a bit better now. Maybe this finger should be a bit more to the left to increase the gap. Basically, the wider the gap for the fingers is, the more stable he will be. I kind of like the fact that it kind of looks like he's like rising the heel of the ground, like he's ready to walk. I kind of dig it. So yeah. Well. Okay, so this is this, and again, if you want to make it look better, just like warp it slightly. So this will allow me to make the entire thing look slightly more interesting. One of the things that I definitely want to have in here is more visible cuffs. So it's a little bit more like round in here. Because if there's like a big roundness in here from the front, from the side it should also be visible. The knee. And the bug. Yeah, and a guy like this I can imagine would wear some schools. But maybe not in here. Maybe he will just have some decorations on his bird. Bird? I don't know how to say it. Some like fetishes, some like bones. Do we have a first crush? Of course we do. So let me reopen the file. Longer, yeah. Whoops, so there will be like a bug. Maybe they are holding like a bones in their bag because they have the wolves, the other unit that is in here. So maybe they just like hold the bones for the wolves. Just like a small touch of a relationship between the units. So maybe this is also the reason why you need to like build the wolves first. So then you can like convince the ogres to come in here to like help you because they like wolves. So yeah. This gap between pecs. But the wrinkles actually can be like oriented as they are on like as the muscle go, because even though the skin is hard, I still can imagine it will wear a bit while he is like growing and everything. So at some point it might be visible. And for the abdominals, I can also imagine some of them will be able. So for example, you can see some like abdominal muscles in here, even though he's like pretty fat. Like there's a lot of fat tissue because still they are really like developed. So they're really thick. So even though there is like a huge layer of fat covering them, there still should be pretty visible. Now I kind of wonder if this arm shouldn't be like shorter. More like this. I think slightly shorter is fine because like this elbow is in here and this elbow is in here, so the arm, more or less it's fine. This angle could be better. Yeah. Now also I can see how like lightly I have treated the face in terms of like drawing. Not much was done in here. So I can like increase the line thickness. It's definitely one of the cases where most likely you won't see the white part of an eye. Most likely the shadow will like create the feeling of an eye. So I want to make it read a little bit more like a graphic type of a thing. Yeah, something like this will do. Most likely there will be like more than one layer for the cloth, so like usually feel free to experiment with it. Can imagine some straps to happen. Some like rings. It's like a type of a decor that makes zero like purpose at all. You can like tie something to it. It's not like entirely useless, but it's just like a typical type of a decor that just like look nice. And this is pretty much all. This is the only purpose of something like this, to look nice. So for the bird decorations, I want the hair to be a little bit more untidy. So even though they are like pretty thick, maybe the entire head should be a bit lower. Okay. This finger will go more in here. In here. Okay. Yeah, and this leg could get some like warping, so it will go a little bit more into this like S shape type of a thing. I feel this guy could go a little bit more like to the side. So the gap will be a little bit more visible. Most likely the knot will be outside, if there will be a knot at all. Thanks a lot, Love a Bit Art. It's not like a barbarian, it's an ogre from Heroes of Might and Magic 1. So this is... Do I even have it in here? Yeah. This is basically this guy. So yeah. This dude in here I can see had mustache and hair on his head. Oh, and a jewel on the leg. I want to include that. So yeah. Yeah, I'm basically like for fun redesigning the characters from like Heroes of Might and Magic 1. So yeah. A jewel on the leg. This will be like a hard one to pull off. No, I won't give him a jewel on a leg. It won't make a lot of sense. Let me just like rewarp this. And wrap him a bit more here and there. Yeah, so we could say this is like our version number 1. So let's hide all the things that are references. And let's just duplicate this fella to make the canvas a bit wider. Whoops. So let's say the second version will basically, I hate when this happens, will basically have like this. this guy slightly painted in a slightly different manner. I prefer him to be bald, it just fits nicer. But yeah, let's... Where are my Neanderthal faces? Or let me just try a different face with slightly different haircut. Let me remove the underneath base. I've been drawing with light gray. Let me try something like bigger cheeks. Something that looks slightly more apish. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I usually like using references. Recently I discovered that I like references to the point where without them I am like almost unable to start doing stuff. So I kind of need to practice sketching a bit more, I believe. Because instead of like it became kind of like limiting to the things that I want to make. But yeah. And this one looks kinda too intelligent, I would say. Maybe making the eyes much... This looks kind of funny. And still a bit too smart. Let's see. Yeah, it's a good habit to draw without references. I mean, I usually don't like I mean, not that I don't like. I don't enjoy drawing without references as much as I do with the references. But I never was like the type of guy that would like fill up sketchbook after a sketchbook. This face don't work at all. So yeah. Let me try something slightly different. But usually I prefer to just like learn how to draw new things with while actually drawing them. So for example, in here, if I were to draw like a belt of ropes or whatever, then I won't like practice it previously. I will just like try to like learn it on a spot. I need to remember this guy had a relatively like huge nose, so I want to kind of keep it like this way. Whoops. In this case, it might be like the first sketch will actually be the best one, because those don't look promising at the moment. And on the other hand, yeah, there's something wrong with the eyes. They just look too intelligent. So I guess I need to like make them more roundy. For him to appear a bit dumber. This kind of works. Hello, Boss GFX. A long time no see. I kinda like this face. He looks like he is like properly swollen. And it has this like dumber side. So maybe I will try to also give him a mustache. If like this blank spot in the middle. Yep, I feel this one is even better. Not in a sense that I like it more. I still feel this face look better in a sense. It's like more fitting to the entire character. This feels a bit out of a place, but it would fit to a different type of a character. But I do feel if we consider that we are trying to like redesign Heroes of Might and Magic 1, it serves its purpose a bit better because it's a bit more truthful to the original. And also let's remember that the original that is in here had the cloth over the entire body. So let me now add the cloth around the entire body. I can imagine this will be some sort of a like tank top or something along those lines. The only difference is like maybe it will be some sort of a vest. There actually will be like some material on it, but it can be like a bit more like open. I have no idea how the material would crease on this guy. I don't know. Let me check. It's 8,000 per 4,000. So like medium type of a size thing. A bit longer bird. I kind of want like his stomach to be visible. I can imagine this type of a monster would like take pride in his like belly, so he won't shy away from like showing it. So yeah, I feel this fella is a bit more original looking. This one is a bit more like casual. It sounds like I have seen a monster with this type of a face. I rarely have seen a monster with this type of a face, so I feel it's working on my advantage. Some different elements in here. Slightly different bones. Nothing here will be a bit bigger. And also this type of a vest will nicely like cast a shadow on him. So when I will be like shading everything, then it will just cast a bit nicer. For the rendering, I might actually try to emulate how Taran Fiddler does his painting, because I really dig the way he paints muscles and everything. So I guess I will just like try to like later study him a bit more, or the things that he does. Let me also see Tropical 3 Gang was trunk. Let me see if there are some. Yeah, the tropical trees basically look all the same. I mean the trunks look really similar. One of the things that might be interesting actually to use as a mace is this type of a tree. I have no idea how it's called. Something. but I guess it has spikes, so it does make sense that a guy like this would take it, like scrape off some spikes from the area where he does not want the spikes to occur. And he will use it as a spiked type of a club, type of a thing. Especially since painting something like this will be interesting, and it basically makes a natural looking weapon, so let me actually try to find this type of a tree. How it's called? Tropical tree spikes. I don't know, so since this is fantasy, I could say something like this just grows in a place where he lives, so yeah, I have no clue how it's called, but I see it has like spikes that are a bit longer, a bit shorter, so I can imagine this is like the natural type of a weapon for those type of a guys. Especially if he would, like, I don't know, use some sort of a method to make it a bit like more hard. Also some reminiscent of like, the spikes in here. And maybe some cloth like wrapped around, because even though his hands are not really delicate, he still like prefers to like, keep them intact. So he like wraps around the weapon. I like this guy a bit more, especially with this like this type of a shape of a head. It feels like properly like stupid. This type of a thing. It does looks nice, or at least interesting. Form could be pretty much the same. Yeah, and like fur on his chest and tits. Yeah, it was not intended to be a smile, but when I like zoomed out, it kinda felt like it is a smile. Let me test one thing now that you mentioned it. Whoops. Let me try to combine those two faces together, because it might actually work. Yeah, okay. It does work. It does work way too well for me to not use it. Yeah, welcome a new face. He is way too happy for him to not be included in here. Yeah, that was a good idea, Prophet. Yeah, or he might be he is just stupid, so he is happy. He just enjoys himself. Yeah, but it's kind of funny because doing something like this, he's happy. Doing something like this, he's like, he's not happy. He's kind of like weirded out. But definitely this mouth looks better, especially after like slight adjusting. Whoops. Yeah, I feel it looks okay-ish. Now I kind of feel the entire body in here. Like the top part needs to be like slightly moved. Kinda like something like this. A really slight change, but yeah. And now I also need to see what I feel. Because in this one I like that he is kinda more like upright. He's like standing more upright, so that the head is a bit higher. I kinda like it. So let me try on those guy, on the third one, to bring back the original proportions of the head a bit higher. Recently I kind of decided that, I mean, I kind of discovered that I like the characters with like longer necks. I don't know why. I just like those like small heads on a longer necks. It just looks interesting to me. I had no a single clue why this, but when something a bit more like this would work for me. And I actually feel it makes something weird with the proportions, but in a relatively interesting way. I feel the slightly smaller head is a bit better. But I also feel this. Oh yeah, of course I had to glue the arm to the other sketch webs. I also feel this entire arm should be more behind the body. So the elbows will be more or less on the same height, because when you just stand this elbow, well, it should be like even slightly higher. So yeah. So the elbow, like if it's in here, it should like go like this. Yeah, and then it will make the entire maze to go slightly more upward, which I feel is also fine. The maze could be actually bigger. In Dark Souls you have like huge mazes, so this maze can be like much bigger. And maybe like a rope hanging in here. A thick rope. I have no idea for what he could use it, but it does look relatively interesting. Maybe even as a decor or whatever. It would make a lot of sense. And the thing in here. Yeah, I guess we have ourselves a winner. So this guy is definitely the most interesting sketch. So let me just place him in here. So let's mock some Australians. Here is everything. Well, not here. You go outside here. So this is our first character that we will be like rendering soon into, oh, maybe even making him like thicker works better. It does look nice. It does look fine. The hand could be a bit tad smaller because now it's a little bit too massive. I'm usually not a huge fan of making the hands way too massive on the paint, like on the drawings and paintings, so just make it a bit smaller. And this leg also need to be slightly shorter or slightly higher and slightly smaller, so the perspective reads a bit better Stuff like this usually is like the small things that do make a lot of difference. So yeah, the first character is, let's say, redesigned. And for the painting, I won't be doing like, I will do one and finish one and start the second one and finish the second one. I want to like start them all at the same time, and I want to finish them more or less all on the same time. So I will be sure that the quality will be much more similar, because it's a natural type of a thing that after doing like 5, the sixth one will be much nicer. But to avoid this type of a thing, I can just start all at once and improve all of them together. So it won't happen that one is like vastly better than the others, but the general quality hopefully will increase. So this is like a plan, and also it will make it slightly easier for me to like manage to finish. So yeah, I feel this is like a sensible way to approach it. I'm not too fond of this like maze, but maybe I will convince myself to it soon. Definitely some spikes can be like broken, so but I guess this will be much easier to be done while actually painting. This finger will be much fatter. So yeah, I believe it was Ogre. So let's name him Ogre. Okay, this was a fail. So I guess for a second creature to start, definitely I don't want to start with the wolf. I want to kind of like change the wolf entirely. I absolutely don't enjoy how the sketch looks like at the moment. I would like to maybe do the goblin, because he will be like the easy one and definitely the fastest one. So let me name this group Ogre. And also, let me do the goblin. So the goblin, later I will just resize them. So it will be more or less like this, right? Yeah, just under the belt, something like this. Yeah, feel free to do so, Mikołaj. No problems. And also I need to drink water, not dehydrate myself. Remember to drink water. If you won't drink water, your eyes will dry up, and I don't know, you will lose seeing or whatever. Okay, this guy will be definitely much more tricky because he's skinny. What means the anatomy will be there, will be visible. So let me search quickly for some sort of a reference of a tribesman with a spear, because I want the anatomy to be relatively similar. I found a really cool reference. Hopefully it is suited to be on YouTube, because all the private parts are hidden, but this looks really cool in terms of anatomy. You kind of see like that he is like dry and like really, like the skin is really thin, but at the same point it looks really strong and hard. Maybe if I will even have some luck. Holy fuck, this is a cool photo. Wow. This photo is extremely cool. The hue of his skin is amazing. This is nice. This looks very good. Our ideal situation will be to make this type of a like man in almost exactly the same pose, but doubt it will happen. So but I found some of tribesmen with some sticks. Yeah, okay, this two must be enough. Let me also check out the original because I don't remember how it looked like. Yeah, right. Okay, I do remember how it looked like. So, the face. Something slightly more like surprised and maybe crazy a bit. I kind of want to show that these guys are kind of like the typical demons from Diablo, so that they are like easily scared. And they definitely need to have like a huge noses, because the original has a huge nose. And I feel this is like the type of a monster that will benefit from having like a huge nose. I really dig this type of a decor in the nose. So this thing to be like there. The mouth can be kind of like dried up. Everything like the muscles in here can be a bit more visible. Can kind of look a bit more tired. And I kind of want their skulls to be a bit longer. Just slightly. This is like a typical type of a goblin, I would say. Nothing too fancy is happening in here, but definitely a huge nose is also not anything that is extremely like original with goblins, but again, it's really hard to go extremely crazy creative with a goblin that is basically like a green skin type of a guy. Okay, for his hair, I actually really like the hair of this guy, or actually the hair of this guy is really similar to the original. Yeah, I would roll with it, because dreadlocks are a bit more typical. They will look better, but I kind of feel, why should we make a monster to have like the same type of appearance as we human though? So since this is like a different type of a creature, it's not like a human, so arguably it could have like its own taste in like aesthetics, especially since all like a lot of this tribal people have really specific like visuals to them. So for example, if you look at the like real shamans, how they look like, they tend to look extremely weird and scary, but in the sense that they are really different from what we usually think about a shaman in our like culture. In a sense, like what usually games and movies like kinda made us to know visually. I don't know how to say it. Like I feel we all have a really similar way of perceiving a shaman. And actually, when I started looking at some references on how shamans look like, they look extremely different from what I thought they will be looking. So for example, let me search a reference. So I will show you one. Let me find something that is on the extreme side of weird. Yeah, so for example, this type of a thing. I would never say this is like a shaman outfit. This looks so much different than anything that I know in terms of shamans. It's definitely one of the more interesting ones. I have seen some like much more evil looking. Wait, let me just go to my folder. Human shamans. So for example, this one also is kind of crazy. This looks really interesting. But the one that I have in mind that is really weird is... Soon I will find the photo. For example, this guy. Like, imagine seeing something like this at night, like in a forest. Honestly, I will just like lay down and get sacrificed most likely. This just looks terrifying. So I can imagine stuff like this should be a bit more... like there is a lot of things you can do with stuff like this. Grab a reference quickly. It's definitely more dried up skin and everything. Slightly visible. I will first like draw over the thing. So yeah. Let me actually paint over this like area in here. Later, I guess I will blur it. I have not seen the balls hanging there. So yeah. Link on Facebook, okay. Let me check it. Okay, I have it. Let me check it out. Like a random photo of a dude. On a first glance it looks okay-ish. I don't have many problems with it. It looks kind of like washed out, I would say. It like the values seem a bit odd. In a sense, for example, that your highlight is around like 70. Let me do a capture display, yeah. So you would see what I'm talking about in terms of colors. Yeah, so for example, your highlights are around like 73%, like the highest value on a skin, and the reflected light is around like 64. I guess even if I would search in here for a bit more, I would find something that is like even brighter, but the general idea is the reflected light like should not be as strong as like a main light source. So this should be definitely brighter, and the reflected light could be a bit more delicate. This is the first thing. Deep shadows in a hat definitely could be a bit, well, could be a bit darker, just to put it simply. So like this ambient occlusion type of a thing, it will be definitely darker in here because the light has more problems to like go into there. Maybe a bit bigger in here. And overall, I will just go to levels and I will just like do something like this. I will just increase the values So the darkers will get darker and the bright parts will just get brighter. And then I will try to maybe like brighten up some areas, so it will just look a bit brighter. Also, the thing, hello Nymel, the thing is, like, if the light source is from the right side, this part will be brighter and this part will be darker. Because if you have like an object like this, and the light source is like coming from like this direction, this areas will be like in light. This will be slightly darker and this will be like much darker. So it's basically like in here you can see the planes. So yeah, but overall it looks really nice. Maybe the nose also could get a bit more work. Usually like the nostrils are a bit problematic, but remember the nostrils are not like dark, but they're like holes, so it's not like you have like a dark spot on a skin. It's just like geometry like wrapping around. So when you have like a face, let's say this is like the back of a nose, this will be like the middle of a nose, this will be like the front of a nose. Just connect these guys. So if this is like a base of a nose, then in here you basically have like a hole that like wraps around in here, and it just causes the light to like have problems to enter this area. So it will be just darker. It's not the most beautiful explanation, but I hope you get the idea. Well, I hope you get the idea. So yeah, this part of a nose should be like darker, and then again slightly lighter because of all the reflected light. But other than that, looks really cool. The glasses, it's good that they are round. A lot of problems with glasses, like people end up doing something like this, that with like this edges on the in here, which looks really odd usually. But yeah, looks cool. Looks really nice. And yeah, now back to the goblin. Here, that's my brush. So there will be like a clavicular. And these guys can even feel a little bit more like compressed to the body. I kind of want them to be like this, hiding inside of them. They are not like the most powerful units, so they definitely are strong in numbers, but I can imagine like they are also kind of squishy, in a sense that if you will like hit them, they will like cave in pretty easily. Especially if we would like compare them to the previous guy that we have done in here. In this area, and for a stomach, something like slightly rounder. I don't really feel like giving him this like shredded, chiseled look. It's also a good way to approach it. I feel like just slightly giving him some muscles will be a nice thing. Also, since this guy is like smaller than human, maybe giving him like 4 muscle on his abdominal wall instead of like 6-pack will be a better idea. So like usually when you have a human, let me just draw it, you have like one muscle, let's say, second muscle, and like a third muscle, and then you get this like this belly that sometimes just like is divided, like making the basically the 8-pack or something like this. But this is like a, let's say, a basic structure for the muscles. They of course will be like different in terms of proportions and everything. Sometimes also you will get a separation in here, so you'll basically have like a 10-pack. It can happen. But what if this guy, since it's shorter, will basically have something like this? So in a best case scenario, he'll have a 6-pack like in total, and in best case scenario, he will have like an 8-pack. I feel this is a nice way to go with him. But they can have like a really developed back muscles. Yeah, now a hand, something that will give me nightmares most likely soon. For the hands I will just take later proper references of my own. And yeah. I will just, or I can do something like this. Yeah, but my brain usually don't work well with the hands recently. Symmetry off. But these guys will have like 4 fingers also. I mean like 4 fingers and a thumb. So these are a little bit more agile and they can think a bit better than the previous Duderino. Okay. For the crotch area, I just dig the like this grass type of a cloth. And this is also one of the things that is much easier to be like painted instead of drawn. So yeah, and for the legs, this will be like a small challenge, but basically not many muscles visible. Again, this guy will be more more casual, not really too shredded. But I like the wrinkled, like heavily wrinkled knees, since these guys most likely like walk a lot and they just like not sit, but they kneel a lot while doing some different stuff. So I can imagine they have like extra strong skin on their legs. It does make sense. And the veins on the legs, I feel it. This is like a nice addition to them, to those. These guys could have like four fingers on their toes. And also, for example, the leg can be like full of blisters and scars and everything, because if they live in an environment that has like a lot of like hard grass, like sharp grass, maybe when they run and everything, they just get hurt. They just constantly like cut their legs by accident. So like you can see all the scars made due to the years of like running. And also this is exactly the thing that I have seen said about using references. Where is the reference with the legs? The one that I cut out. Please be somewhere in here. Oh, fuck. I lost it. I need to find it again. Fit, drawing, reference. Well, not a display capture. So yeah, and this is the thing that, again, not necessarily I will practice drawing legs all the time. I will just like practice them like when needed. So I need them now, so now I gather the references and now I will just like use them. The knee will happen, the bone will happen, the scars will happen. Mm. Mm. Okay. And the spear. This hand looks like shit in terms of the quality of the drawing, so more or less something like this, but still this is an ugly hand. I will like rework it later so it will look better, but I don't have a mental capacity today like do this type of a thing. I like the fact that he has some sort of a feathers like in here. It does look nice. So yeah. Maybe in here there should be some sort of a bone sharpened. Or rock, maybe sharpened rock will be better though. Tied properly. Turn this off. Mm-hmm. This leg should be again slightly smaller because it's a little bit more in the back. And the spear in here is done. I like the feathers added to the spear. They look neat. Especially when they will be painted. So for the head. I don't want these guys to look like they are smiling. I'm not really a huge fan of this eye. It's round eyes day. Yep. Yeah, so something like this will do. Yeah, I guess this will be the end of the stream because I'm extremely tired at this point. I don't remember when I was for this long on my legs, so let me just copy him next to the big guy to see how it looks like. Well, I feel he could be like tilted a bit more to this side. more. This leg just needs something like this. Something along those lines, but yeah. I guess I will do like some alternate versions of this guy on the next stream, so I will like experiment a bit more with his design and with the shape of this leg, because it does look odd, especially now. So yeah, but this is like what we have achieved today. So let me just name him Goblin. And yeah, this is pretty much all. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy. Next stream maybe will be a bit longer, because yeah, I will have a bit more energy. So yeah, see ya and have a good day or whatever.